How did you get all this? Did you walk it all home?
Oh, I got a taxi.
I was going to say.
Hi, I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
We have the list of the 100 greatest books everyone should read, but instead of reading them, we are watching the screen versions instead.
Hashtag lifehack. Join us as we discuss the books we've watched.
So before we start on today's subject, what was the last thing you saw at the cinema?
I can tell you that it was Annabelle Creation. Terrifying. Unfortunately, I mean, I shouldn't say it was, but it absolutely was. And what was the highlight for me was the end of it, where we were walking out and some 15-year-old girls were at the back saying, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." And I thought, I was cacking my pants. I didn't know when it would end. Yeah, any horror films. It's apparently better than the first one.
Is that a typical thing? What would be a typical film that you would watch?
It's absolutely not a typical thing. That was the thing. I don't really know what I was thinking when I was like, let's go and see a horror film. I don't know. I have quite a mixed sort of feeling about films. I see lots of different things. So before that, it was Beauty and the Beast. You couldn't get two more different things. In 4DX.
Best thing ever.
I cannot rave about 4DX enough. So, because what did you see in 4DX?
I saw it in 4DX last week.
What was that like?
It was really good. Like, the film's really good anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't in 3D though.
Oh.
So I don't know whether there was lots of rain and lots of wind. It was quite cold.
Yeah.
I was going to see it when it's really cold because they're outside and
doing
a lot of the time
outside,
so the fans are like but then when there was like the kid outside the house, and then when the camera like pans away, the seat kind of tilts back, so you kind of tilt with the camera a lot,
yeah.
so it kind of makes you kind of feel uneasy.
What was there like?
But it was really good.
Was it when it was jumpy? Did the seat jump?
Yeah. So when they're like running, the seat's like jumping up and down with you and stuff.
I do kind of want to see it in 4DX.
Oh yeah, I would recommend seeing it in 4DX.
Is it scary?
It's jumpy.
It's just jumpy. Is it funny?
It is.
I've heard that, and I wasn't sure if it was just
like,
someone
I
having.
would describe it like the
strange humour.
Goonies, but a horror film.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about it. I'll have to go and see it.
That's the latest. So let's get back on to our subject today. So I've written here, you have unwittingly signed up to join me on a journey. So I don't know if that is
a long
100%.
journey.
So this will be a first in a series where we look at screen versions of novels.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just a bit of background to our listeners on how this came about. I found a list of 100 novels that everyone should read.
Yeah.
From the Telegraph. And I thought, that's really good. It'd be great to have that knowledge of, all these great classic books from across history.
So
But I'm not much of a reader. So I thought, well, instead of reading them, I'll find all the screen adaptations.
It's
of all
basically
these
what they
books.
tell you in school not to do.
But you can still get the experience. And everything.
Absolutely.
So I think they call it a life hack.
Oh.
Is that what young people say?
Life
hack?
I don't know. I don't feel young enough to know that.
I call it a life hack.
Down with the kids.
So you are joining me on these subjects, going through these books.
On these life hacks.
I have heard of some of them, and some of them just come into completely new. So
yeah, okay.
I'd say actually a lot of them we would not know anything about before.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've heard of the books, never read them, never knew there were film adaptations.
No.
I think that's fair. Or I wouldn't have it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I have heard of that more than not all of them, but quite a lot.
Yeah, so we will review these as we go along, and they're going to be new. I would say a lot of people wouldn't have watched these either, so I think altogether...
Not all of them, no. No, I take... Absolutely, yeah.
So the first up is The Name of the Rose, which is a 1986 film starring Sean Connery and Christian Slater. Not Christian, we've said...
We kept saying Christian Bale or something.
Christian Bale. And it's gone from Christian Slater to Christian Bale. So Christian Bale is
a footballer.
He's an actor, isn't he?
No, I'm thinking of Gareth Bale.
And then he goes to Gareth Bale. and then it's gone to like Gareth Thomas or someone. So it is actually Christian Slater.
No, Bale.
It's Christian Slater in the film.
I thought you just said Christian Bale.
Christian Bale is an actor, but not in this film.
Are you sure? I'm sure you
Christian
just said.
It's Christian Slater.
Yeah.
So Christian Slater, I looked up, he hasn't actually been in that much, but Christian Bale is like American Psycho and Transformers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not him in this film.
Oh.
Great start.
Great start. Can't even remember who's in.
So this is based on a book by Umberto Eco.
Oh.
I hope I've said that right, which was a bestseller in the 1980s. Well, 1980. So 80s film.
Yeah.
I had not heard of this at all.
I hadn't heard of the book. I had not heard of the film.
This is brand new to us. I should say we're eating roses because of the name of the rose. I got a box of roses.
But we're going to open them.
Yeah, open them. They're a smaller box than they usually make.
It's downsizing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cadbury's.
So you watched the trailer.
Yes.
And what were your initial impressions before you watched the film? So we watched the trailer and then we watched the film. Did you think it was more like a comedy? I didn't really know what to expect. Had no idea.
I think that was it. I just didn't know what to expect. And also, in my head, the synopsis is so much cooler than what it actually ended up being.
So basically, it's a detective novel. Well, not it is.
It is. That is not what this is.
It's set in 1327 in Italy.
Yes.
So it's in this monastery, and Sean Connery is a detective.
He's a monk.
And a monk. Which those two things can go together.
Of course, yeah.
So that's basically what it is. So he plays
Miss Marple?
William of Baskerville. Yeah.
William
of Baskerville. And he arrives in this Italian monastery in the 1400s, and there's a series of deaths and he has to solve them, basically. That is the basic
Yes,
thing.
absolutely,
So it is a detective novel set in a historical.
So hearing that and hearing it, I'm like, yes, I'm so on board with it.
I should say this is an 18.
Yes.
So the trailer's very much like...
Which also shook me.
Name of the rose.
The name. Well, and that's Sean Connery's voice, isn't it? So that's just how he is. But I think, so there's several elements to this before we even begin that have made me think, basically, it's Sean Connery as a monk. That in itself is a strange concept for my brain to understand.
So Sean Connery, I was trying to think. Obviously, everyone would know him as James Bond.
Yeah.
I can think of a few other things that he's done.
Exactly, but I think for everyone, he is James Bond.
Yeah.
So it's really strange to think of him as a monk.
Yes.
And a crime detective solving monk.
Yeah, so actually, I was just doing a bit of research. They didn't actually want him for this part.
Oh, poor Sean.
He was in a bit of decline in the 80s. And they were like, we don't really want Sean Connery because everyone knows him as James Bond.
Yeah.
And then they went to try and find somebody else, and they were like, oh, actually...
Best of a bad situation, apparently. Oh, poor Sean.
But it's good to see him in a different kind of role.
He is good in it. I'll give him that. He is good in it. But first impression is that whenever I say it, so, I was saying to him like, oh, name of the rose, blah, blah, no, oh, what's that? I was like, oh, well, Sean Connery's a monk. And everyone just laughs because it's just the last thing you expect James Bond to play. So good for him because he is good in it. And, it's obviously breaking out of the typecast. So that's the first thing I think before we even begin, I get my head around that.
Yeah.
And the second, the fact that it was an 18.
Yes.
So before we even go any further into it,
right.
The fact that this was an 18 and hearing the synopsis of it being like a crime-solving monk in the 18th century was enough to make me...
You see, I was thinking about this. If it was made now, it probably wouldn't be an 18. Is it because it was in the 80s?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Yeah. And so 18 makes it feel so much more extreme.
Yeah.
It is when we'll get to that for very different reasons, but yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the film. So we have Sean Connery as William of Baskerville.
Yeah.
And Christian Slater as Adso, who's like he's like 15, he's like his young kind of apprentice.
Yeah.
So they arrive middle of nowhere in this bleak landscape. It's all like cold and...
That's the other thing. So It's so dark as a film.
It is,
As in,
yeah.
there's never much light to it. It's just a very dark film. And I said this to you before we even started. In a weird way, it reminds me of a very unfunny Monty Python Knights of the Holy Grail, like in terms of style and set. But obviously it's not, but
is it just, I think they're trying to be realistic.
yeah, it's the period. It's absolutely the period.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, it's filming period as well, if that makes sense.
There's no colour in it. It's just grey.
Black, dark. Well, it starts with no image.
Yeah.
It is just a black screen. Like when we watched it, we thought the TV was off because we couldn't work out to begin with that Sean Connery was talking over the top of nothing. Yes, it's a very dark film.
Yeah, I think if it was made today, it wouldn't look like that.
At some point, I'll start talking about positives with it, but right now, yes.
So they arrive in the middle of nowhere, and I think they go into like this monastery for like a monk's conference or something like that. Anyway, they get there, and one of the monks has died, and they say it's suicide.
Yeah.
And then, I'll stop calling him Sean. So William of Baskerville is... he is a bit of an amateur detective, or he's known for like being... Yes.
He is. From what I know, he's like the person that looks into this sort of thing. Like, of all the monks, they're going to send him into it.
Yeah, so he has a look around this bleak monastery. And so it's like a tower, and then there's like all the poor people that live below this tower, and they like throw all their old fruit and veg out by this like chute. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So they open up this thing, and it's just... like down, and then all the poor people are like,
"Oh, food." Yeah. But again, I mean, this is a time where you were,
it's historical.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But he deduces that this monk like fell to his death or something, couldn't have fallen because of like the way the window was made or something like that. Anyway, he's like, something's suspicious here. It's not right. So he starts to kind of investigate around. There's lots of monks in this. There are a lot of characters in this.
So
I got a bit
monks.
kind of confused about who was supposed to be who.
And it's so dark.
And they all look kind of looking suspiciously.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah. I think people got cast on how suspicious their eyes could look because they're all cloaked up as well. So all you get really is the round of the face. You don't see a lot more. I mean, we've sort of got it on as we're talking in the background here. And all you can see are some cloaks walking. You can't see anything else. They're just some cloaks. Sean Connery's completely covered. They all like look. Everyone is covered.
Maybe that's a plus to having Sean Connery because at least you remember who he is out of all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
as a lead.
And Christian Slater as well because he looks so different to anything and anyone else. But we'll come to that.
Right.
So yes.
So then there is another murder.
Yes.
Do you remember the vat of pig blood?
Yes.
So that's kind of very grisly. For the time, I think. So he's drowned in all this like blood. Yeah. So now everyone's like, right, this can't be like suicide. Yeah. This has got to be a murder. Yeah. There is a murderer in this monastery somewhere.
Bum bum bum. Yeah.
And one of the things that William of Baskerville finds out, they've got like black stains on their tongue and on their like fingers.
Yes, that's what connects them.
So the mystery is unfolding. And so this monastery, they're writing all these books out, aren't they? So it's like this library. So I think this is supposed to be famous. I think
they're like writing up scriptures or something.
Yeah. So
it's not a very clear film in terms of what actually...
You're supposed to kind of know the time and what
I think you're supposed to know the book to some extent. I think it's a really great accompaniment to the book that obviously we've not read because that goes against the point of doing this podcast. But... I found it very difficult to follow what was happening. And it's so dark. I keep saying that, but it is a really difficult film to follow. Yeah. So I think they were writing scriptures.
Something like that. There's a library.
Something like that. There is a library. Yes.
And so we meet some other monks after that. So we've got that demented monk. He's called the demented monk.
Yeah.
And his kind of his like friend. So there's this whole kind of, I think this is where like historical stuff comes in. This is maybe why it's like a really famous novel. So they're Dulcinites, which are a kind of monk that are like against.
Yes.
I don't really. That's the thing. That's what
They're
added
against
to
certain parts of scripture, aren't they?
Yeah. So that makes them suspicious because
Yeah.
they find out that these are Dolchenites. So there's something going on in the library. They won't let them go up to this extra bit of the
Yes.
library. So see, I'm going to call him Sean Connery because so Sean and his friend
Shawnee.
are like, we need to get up there, and they somehow go through there, and there's like lemon juice writing. Do you remember that? He gets a bit detective. He's like, oh, this book is written with like lemon juice.
Oh,
He holds it up
yes.
to the light, and it's got like a secret thing, which I
Yes.
had no idea you could do.
No.
That's
You should
clever.
try that.
Yeah.
Lemon juice writing. Yes, I do remember that now.
Yeah,
It was
so-
so secret that I forgot it. But no, you're right.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of the mystery. There's something going on with these books,
Yeah.
and the monks that are dying are the ones that have been writing out these.
Yes. Which is why they've got
books.
the black ink, they think.
Yeah. And then we should talk about the peasant girl.
Peasant girl, yes. Let's start with peasant girl then.
So she is living down. I was going to say living downstairs.
She lives out with the poor people.
With the poor people.
Now, we gave her a different, not peasant girl, what was it? Like, she's like the wench. Is she?
Well, yeah, well.
She's a peasant
She doesn't.
girl.
I don't think she's got a name in this. I think she's
No.
just the girl. She's the only girl in the
She
whole
is
film.
she is the name of the rose.
Yes, which I didn't understand
Yes.
the title of that film, but we'll get back to that.
Yes.
So we should say that this whole story, and I think the book as well, is told back by Adso, Christian Slater's character.
Yeah.
So he's telling the story back. So he's like, when I was young,
Yeah. So
this is what happened.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
yeah.
So he's supposed to be the narrator of this story.
Yes.
And he sees the peasant girl when they're out and about investigating. The moon-faced monk as well. So this is my favourite line when Sean Connery goes, "Let's go and find the moon-faced monk," or something like that. Who is this like fat monk who works in the library? So he's been suspicious as well.
Yes.
He's found dead, drowned with black in his mouth and on his fingers.
Yeah.
As well. So it's just these murders are just racking up now.
Yeah, yeah. Got to get solving it. Pressure's
So
on.
then, okay, well, let's just get to the scene, which we're
The
going to get
scene,
to.
yes.
Okay, so far it's kind of a dull detective monk mystery,
Well, yes,
basically.
but it is.
Murder.
You just got to really.
Murder, and it's not really. Nothing else is really happening.
No, it's. Gosh, I really, really, really wanted to love this film. I really did, and there were parts of it where I was getting bored. And like I said, I think it's because it's so dark. It's hard to follow the story. I mean, I don't know if I really would have known exactly what's going on without reading the synopsis
Okay.
ahead or having an idea of what it was about.
Okay.
So when this scene came out, which we're going to discuss,
So not halfway through, 3/4 of the way in, Sean Connery and Christian Slater break into the library. They're looking through these books, trying to get into this library.
yeah,
I have to mention Sean Connery's glasses.
yes,
He has these spectacles, which I didn't even know they had spectacles in 14th century
no,
Italy.
well, they must
They're
have to
like
say,
these huge spectacles. So
Yeah.
they get stolen,
yes, we can't see,
so
yeah,
you can't see. And he's not wearing them all the time, by the way. He just
No, just when
wears
he's
them to, like,
reading
read these books. There's an alarm or something goes off, like a bell.
yeah, yeah,
Something happens, and they're trying to chase. I think they're trying to trace this monk, this moon-faced
yes,
monk.
yeah,
So Sean Connery goes one way, Christian Slater goes the other way. Christian Slater ends up in this barn.
yes,
So the peasant girl is basically a prostitute.
yes,
So she's been going into the village, sleeping with these monks for like food, like vegetables and chickens and stuff.
yeah,
So he finds her hiding in a barn.
yes.
And then this is the bit where you text me saying, bloody hell, you didn't tell me there was intercourse scene in this film.
It was, I mean, it just felt so left field. I felt like I'd suddenly walked into a porno or something, honestly.
It wasn't that bad.
It was like, it was though in context. Bear in mind, this entire film, there's no flesh. You might just see a hand and a face. Like, And then you get his full, like, you get his arse out. You get everything. And it's proper. It goes on for a bit and it sort of breaks up because you see bits of that and then it goes to like what Sean Connery's doing a little bit and you come back to it and it's all very... And then it's something... I can't remember the exact wording now. We'll have to check. But there's something over the... When he's talking about this woman. And bear in mind, he's supposed to be like, you know, a nice little... apprentice, he's going to be a monk one day, and they don't do that. And this woman basically just comes onto him, and has sex with him.
That is true.
And that is true. What happens.
But it's a vital part of the actual plot, really.
Yeah.
Because he falls in love with her basically after that.
Yeah.
And that is the point of the story, really.
Yeah, I
think it kind of has to be like that.
Even after watching it, it's the only thing I remember. I was just in shock. I really was. It was just so... It was just so unexpected. And also, there was no speaking. I think that was... like...
Yeah.
They didn't
she
really...
doesn't speak throughout, I don't think.
No. But he didn't speak to her.
Yeah, it's not like a conversation.
But there was like this weird... I couldn't really work out if he wanted it. Like, I couldn't work it out. Because he didn't say out and he looked really concerned because he knew himself. You saw his little ejaculation face. Like,
hang on, I don't know.
He looks so young as well. I think that's the thing. He looks about 12.
Oh, and then he's hiding and then she's there.
Yeah.
He doesn't realise.
They sort of look at each other.
But before this, he has spied her before when they were outside. So there's been a bit of a... He's kind of looked at her. So
they've looked at each other. There's been a glance.
Yeah.
You know? Like you do in a nightclub, you know? You're in the club. You might see someone at the bar and you're like up on the deck or something. You see them, you pass eyes. It's been that moment, but there's still a lot of people in between. A lot of life goes on before that.
I was reading up about this.
Yeah.
So the director didn't direct this scene. He just told her, just go for it, and didn't tell Christian Slater what was going to happen. So his reaction, he doesn't know what is happening in this scene. He just told her to go for it.
Well, he did know that he was going to like...
Well, yeah, he said, obviously, it was like, I think it was
this is where it's concluding to.
But the position or whatever she was going to do, he had no idea.
Yeah. It's a real left field moment in this film, because you don't see a lot of skin.
Nobody wears any underwear in the 14th century.
Yeah, in fact, I shouldn't be as pretentious about it as I am, but in the context of this entire film...
I have to say, I did kind of not mention this when I told you about the film.
You didn't, no.
Well, it just kind of happened.
Anyway, the name of the rose. So he says a line around here, something about, and I looked at her, and I can't remember it now. It was something, I didn't know her name.
A rose by any other name or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they made that scene like that, because they had to, because it is... That is the whole concept of the of the story. I think the detective thing is just kind of the background, really, in a way.
Well, yeah, I guess so. You didn't tell me that when you told me about it.
I didn't think it was an 18. I thought you might be expecting.
I didn't expect
it to be an 18.
Well, I mean, how many people, when they're told, "Oh, it's a monk film, a monk detective film with Sean Connery, and he's solving some crimes about some dead monks," do you expect a huge sex scene in the middle of it, in between? And there's no build-up. There is no build-up to it, really. It just sort of suddenly happens with no talking. It was a turning point for me. It was a wow moment, and I really struggled to get back into it after that, because...
Should we... after that, really, it just goes back to kind of the detective...
Yeah, exactly.
There's the detective bit. There is... I think someone else dies... They find that hidden labyrinth, so they get into it, and it's this... I don't know how that actually... It kind of goes into a bit like a fantasy kind of labyrinth, an actual labyrinth. It just goes
everywhere and anywhere, and you get lost. And
so, it's a bit like...
Where did they hide it?
Like a fantasy film where just all these staircases are everywhere.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that would happen in real life, like where they've got... It's like this basement, like underground or that kind of thing. They find that this labyrinth, and they get lost, but then they get out of it again.
Yeah.
There's all these like hidden books, these special books and that's kind of what's been happening. So it turns out that black is poison on the books. So the monks have been licking their fingers, turning the pages and getting poisoned.
Yes. And am I right that they are like comedy books?
So it's the head monk,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want them to read comedy, and they
Yes.
were like basically sneaking off to like
Read
read
these
these like
funny
jokes
things.
and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's all it is.
Because he doesn't believe, and it's not from the Bible. I don't know. It was something that's a bit more
Socrates or
light,
something like that.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's a bit more light-hearted, and
Yeah.
basically he's like,
no.
that's not what it should be about. Everyone should.
But
be
then the peasant
serious.
girl comes back into it again because she's off doing her trading.
Yeah,
with this other monk. They have a bit of a fight.
Yes.
And the barn goes on fire, so all the monks gather round, and because there's a black chicken and a black cat or something there, they're like, it's her, she's the devil,
Oh,
it's the signs of the devil. So this monk and her, they get arrested and put on trial for doing all these murders. That's what they think, because they've just seen this cat and this chicken that happen to be there at the same time. And it kind of that's where it kind of dragged a bit for me, because I didn't watch this all
They
in
brought
one
in
go.
another
I had
monk,
to stop.
didn't they?
And they had so he's what, F. Murray Abraham, because he's in the trailer like starring Sean Connery and F. Murray Abraham.
Okay.
So I don't know him as an actor. He's been in Grand Budapest Hotel and Homeland, the TV series Homeland.
What was he in
apparently.
Grand Budapest?
I don't know.
Oh,
I didn't get
I
that
love
bit,
that film.
but he's been in that. So he must have been quite well known at the time. So he's like the enemy of Sean Connery. So he's come in and been like, he just wants to kill the peasant girl, and the other monk could just be like, let's just get on with this. He's not actually part of it. I think he just happens to not really be bothered.
He's almost like police monk or something, isn't he? Like they call him in, don't they, to sort of like hold this trial.
Yeah. So so when it gets to the trial, you're like about an hour and a bit in, and you just think, come on. And it does go on for quite a bit after that, because then there's then they find out about these comedy books, they find this other monk, and then all the books go on fire, and there's a big fire.
Yeah.
And
there's something as well, I think, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I'm making this up, but I would presume, that in the book, this is a very exciting turn. And I just think because this film is so dark, I mean, right now, we're looking at Sean Connery and Christian Slater talking, and I can't see anything but Christian Slater's head and the half of Sean Connery's face, which are lights catch. It's such a dark film.
A lot of these conversations they have are all lines in the book. They have taken directly from the book. Yeah, so they're kind of talking, But
I think it's very different reading it in a book, because you can get your own context. Whereas watching this film, and just the way it's just such a, it's the time, I know, but it's just so dark and so, it's really hard to just keep track with. I think a book.
The fire at the end is quite good.
Yeah, that
absolutely. Kind of ramps up a little bit.
I think that's why we find it hard by the time we get to this trial, because it's just so, it feels a slog to keep up with. Then you have the sex scene, so that's some adrenaline, and then you get back to this and it's just a bit, ooh. And
then at the end, he says about, they basically just, all the books go up in fire.
Yeah.
And then Sean Connery and, they're just leaving on horseback. They're like, right, all done. We're going now. And as they leave, he goes past the peasant girl. And so Christian Slater's character is like, should I stay with her?
Yes.
Or should I go on? And he decides to leave her there.
Yes. So there's something about he says, and you're like, I'm not sure if that was a regret or not, but I'll always remember her or something.
Yeah. Which is probably pages and pages in the book, which is just like the last 30 seconds of the film.
Yeah, yeah.
So this didn't do very well at the box office in America.
Shocker.
It did better in Europe, but it's probably, it just didn't do, it wasn't a hit as such. I can't imagine seeing this at the cinema.
No. I should have seen it at home. Do you know what? I shouldn't Slater. There's some good moments. I mean, if I was to pick my sort of highlights here, I think Sean Connery is really good in it.
I was going to say, in terms of the actors, they do a good job. There's no, I don't know. Well, Sean Connery and Christian Slater do quite well.
Yes.
I think F. Murray Abraham, who plays the
baddie,
I think he's a bit over the top.
Yes.
And all of the others are just...
It feels really hammy acting.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that, but it does.
Actually, I think Sean Connery is a little bit
He's not as bad as bear in mind, Sean Connery is James Bond, and it's very hammy as James Bond almost.
Yeah.
I think this is, I don't know, I find him really good in this. I think in terms of like the image of Sean Connery you have in your head, this is such a complete contrast. And I think he does it really well. I think he's very good.
I don't see him as a character. I just see him, that's Sean Connery dressed up as a monk.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can escape that.
Yeah, you can't.
And one thing that does always amuse me, all these secondary characters, particularly the ones that maybe are from the other side of things, they all look very rough.
I think they might have all been cast because they all look a bit... I don't know if they're like all... if some of them got prosthetics
They
and they all
must
look
have.
like that. I don't know if they do. I think they just have been cast because they all look a bit...
They look rough. And which is weird because it just, I don't know. I don't really feel like Sean Connery and Christian Slater actually fit within this world. I think that's... It's not a very... All right, it's not glamorous. I'm not saying it should be glamorous, but it's just very...
But then imagine if those two were made up like all the others.
Oh,
They'd
yeah,
all
it
just
wouldn't
blend
work.
in and
It
they
wouldn't
just
work.
would not...
But I think that's it. And I think almost that's what makes Sean Connery stand out even more from it. Because the rest, just... it's just so...
But it's probably quite realistic.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of a movie. It's about, yes, being realistic, but also it's something for the audience, surely, as well. And I just, yeah.
They have gone on the bleakness a lot and the
Yes,
realism.
absolutely.
And this was all built. They built this
Did they?
thing. It's like one of the biggest film sets since Cleopatra.
Wow.
When you consider it's just a load of
Monks.
castle walls and monks, and they made everything was made like 14th
Gosh,
century and everything.
didn't know that. Well,
So they
yes.
did try.
I find it very hard to sort of follow the other cast, which I think just doesn't have a story.
I think that's it.
Everyone just looks very...
They all just blend in a little bit too much.
Yeah, everyone's just a bit weird and blends in together. Everyone looks a bit weird and there's no real distinct characters. You don't really get to know any of them or, it's difficult. You don't really learn about these characters before this happens. So you don't really feel it's just another person that's died and some more weird people like roaming around.
Yeah, that's true. So what would you give this out of 10?
It's a good question. I would say, can I rate two versions?
Okay.
So, based on what I think the book might be like.
Yep.
So, I think in terms of like the story of what it is, I'd probably say like 6.5, 7.
Okay.
However, I don't feel that this film really gives justice to what the story is. I think if this was done nowadays, it would sort of remind me of the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
And I think in my head, when you first mentioned this, that's kind of what I had in mind. That sort of, the celebration, the elaborateness of this season of time, So the film is just so poor. I'd say 4.
Yeah.
But I think it's because like you lose the story and it's very hard to follow and it's dark but in terms of like what the story is, I really like the concept of it and I would want to read it, I think, because I think the bits where I was getting a bit bored or struggling, I shouldn't say bored, I was struggling, are probably going to be better in the book.
Yeah,
I
would say 5. I was going to go for 5.
Yeah.
No more than that. I did have to stop halfway through.
And have a cup of tea.
Yeah, just a bit of a break. It's kind of, you get it late night on like Channel 4 or something like that.
You wouldn't even get it on there.
No,
yeah.
It would just be,
Be Channel 5.
Late night Channel 5.
Like 2 in the morning.
Yeah, it's a 2 in the morning type kind of film.
Yeah. And it's a shame because I don't know, I could read it. I reckon I could read it. But
Sean Connery really wanted to play this part, apparently.
Well, yeah, I can imagine because it's such a completely contrasting thing to what he's done before. Yeah, I can imagine that. I do think this is, I mean, it must be. It's on this list of 100 books everyone should read.
Yeah.
So it must be a great book. And I said earlier, it sort of reminds me of like an Agatha Christie, Miss Marple kind of concept, you know, this like person who, you know, everyone sort of goes to, but actually, I just think the film's really poor. And it makes me sad. / it's very graphic, unexpectedly in places that I really wasn't expecting. From where it's been running up to. So yeah.
It's a 4 from you.
4 for film, 6 for plot.
Okay, yeah. I just give it a 5 just
Overall
overall,
5.
I think. Well, I was intrigued about kind of what who was doing the killings. It does, you know.
That was good. So when it was like the big reveal,
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah.
This could be someone's favourite, and I've just
It could be,
absolutely ruined it. And that's fine, it's my opinion.
I don't know if anyone's watched this in however long.
Yeah.
I'm very
true.
surprised.
Yeah, but we want to hear.
Here we go. Well, that is the first one down. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Books We Watched. And Mark, you can email us as well.
You can email us bookswewatched@gmail.com.
That's right.
Email us whatever you want.